Yes, Lord, I really do want you. Yes, Lord, I really do need you. I hear you whispering in my ear.
This man who was blind from birth, his eyes were open and he began to see. But men who had their eyesight from birth could not see and could not understand why this man was seeing. All right? Now, it's important for us to understand the value and the strength in this man called Jesus. When we know who we are able to deal with the circumstances. This blind man was first obedient. Let us look at the character of this man. This man came to Jesus to be healed. Some people would have said, don't do that. You spit, put the saliva on the ground and make clay and put on my eyes. You shouldn't do that. It didn't matter what Jesus did. This man was interested in the end result because he knew once Jesus had done what he should do, that he would come out seeing. It is important that you know that once you come to Jesus and you do what you should do, Jesus will do what he should do. And once he do what he should do, you are going to come out seeing clearly. Here this man was first obedient. Now when you come to Jesus, you've got to learn to be obedient. Because there are many things that will hold you back and will distract you. But once you know who you are, you know that you can be obedient to the voice of Jesus. Jesus said to this man, go to the pool of Siloam. Now he could have gone anywhere else. He could have gone to the River Jordan. But when God gives us an instruction, he expects us to carry it out. And once you're obedient, according to the word in Isaiah chapter 19, I think it is, it says, if ye be willing and obedient, 1 verse 19, ye shall eat the good of the land. Many of us do not eat the good of the land because we are disobedient. We want to be double timing. We want to be working on this side of the fence and still playing with the devil. You've got to learn to be obedient. You have to learn to give up fully to the Lord Jesus. You have to get rid of the things that are holding you back. You have to get rid of the things that would cause you to be deceitful. And you've got to get rid of your deceptions. You've got to take a new focus on what God is saying to you. You've got to change your knowledge of what the word says, and you've got to be able to trust God to lead you in the paths of righteousness. We hear the psalmist David say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, thou comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Therefore we cannot have fear, because fear is not of God. Because God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. So when you know who you are, you're able to go forward in faith and trust God to bring victory and deliverance to your life. You can trust God to give you a new focus. You can trust God to open new doors of opportunities for you. You can trust God because you know what his word says. This man was blind. He followed an instruction and he began to see. How many of us are blind? Not necessarily physically, but we've lost focus. So we need a new direction. We need to hear the voice of God. We need to know, because until you get a direction from God, your life cannot change. Many of you are going in the wrong direction. Many of you do not even know where you're going. And like I always say, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Therefore, it's important that you know where you're going. You know who you believe. And I hear a man who was tempted and tested by the devil. And he said when he lost his sheep and his cattle, when he lost everything he had, including his children, he says, I know that my Redeemer liveth. What can you say this morning? Is God alive? Is the power of God still available today? This Jesus that healed the sick, this Jesus that opened the eyes of the blind, is he with us this morning? Is he able to do the impossible in your life? You are facing many many challenges and you are looking to God, but you are not willing to do what he says. That's why there is no change. And you've got to recognize that. There's got to be a change as long as you're willing to do what God says. What do you know? Because what you know will determine what you do. None of us can do what we do not know. That's why the word says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Therefore, it's important that you know how to set goals for your own life. Because you see, if you don't know where you're going, the devil will have you moving around. There's some people who don't know, and the first thing you've got to understand, you've got to be obedient to the voice of the Lord. Because when the Lord says something to you, he means for you to be obedient to him, because he will guide you. And if God says that you should be somewhere, well, you need to be faithful to it, despite the circumstances. And if you know that God has brought you here to be a part of this assembly, then you need to be faithful to it. And you need to be faithful to God here in this assembly. And you need to do what God would have you to do. And you need to understand that without him, there's not going to be any blessings in your life. This man was obedient. That's why he got his healing. This morning, change can come to your life if you are willing to be obedient. Somehow this challenge is for somebody here this morning. Somebody who the devil has been tempted to do things that are not right. This challenge this morning is for somebody whose eyes has been darkened by the circumstances of the world. And you need to take a new focus. And God is saying to you this morning, are you willing to surrender to me? And if you're willing to surrender, there's a change going to take place in your life. It's very important that you understand in life, there are 7 keys to successful living in life. The first one is goal setting. You've got to learn to set goals for yourself. There's so many of us that don't set goals. And if you don't set goals, you don't know where you're going. There are too many of you that just running from pillar to post. You have not decided what you want to do in life. You need to look at your potential. And determine where you're going, what your purpose is going to be, and your final destiny. Okay? So the first thing you have to do is to learn to set goals for yourself. Where are you going to be by the end of this year? What are you going to do by this time next year? It's not just important to be living and working and not understanding that you need to save. Many of our people do not understand the difference between the word S-A-V-E and S-A-L-E. We are beckoned, as it were, to the places which say sail, sail. And there is not a newspaper that you open that will not have the word sail in it. Because they're beckoning you to come and spend your money whether you want to or not. And because you have many pairs of shoes, you will go and buy another one because it says that it's a sale. And you will try to convince yourself because you will say, but it only costs $29, but it used to cost $109. It does not matter what it costs. The question is, do you need it? You see, it's important that you understand, because if you, when you know the difference, you don't have to go by what everybody else is doing. You know, almost most ladies, I'm not saying everyone, will have no less than 24 pairs of shoes. And it seems as though because we have been barefooted for so long that now the time has come, we need to be wearing shoes. But you can only wear one pair at a time, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that the devil is trying to deceive us so that we will spend our money on clothes and not be able to save. Now the way to wealth is to work, save, and invest. Get that principle in your head. Work, save, and invest if you want to be wealthy. Now if you want to look wealthy, you go out and buy all the designer clothing and wear them. You go and buy the fancy cars. and you look wealthy, but you will only be fooling the public. But the bankers will know that you owe them the money. So will the credit card people. So you're only fooling yourself, right? So what you know, you have to change your thinking about what you know so that you will come into the light. You will come into freedom. You will come into a new focus. This man came into a new focus because of his obedience and because he knew that when Jesus sent him to the pool to dip, that he was going to come back seeing. The question this morning is, what do you know about your own life and the changes that you need to make in it? Most of you will tell me, I cannot save any money. Of course not, because you spend all the time. And you don't know the difference between spending and saving. You work for your money and before you get it, it's all gone anyhow. You didn't learn to save. And because you haven't learned to save, the devil is keeping you in poverty. And because the devil knows that you are a spender, you know, I hear some people saying, you know, I like to shop. I like to go shopping. And they feel that so exotic to say. Or I like to go to fine restaurants to eat. My goodness me. The cost of one meal at some restaurants would be the cost of groceries for the whole week at home. But you see, it depends on what we know. Because, you know, I don't see any reason for me to go and spend $100 at a restaurant when I can buy that $100 in groceries and it can last me for the whole week. You see, you have got to break out of that cycle of pleasing people, looking at what other people are doing. You got to break out of that cycle and understand that greater is he that's in you than he that is in the world, and you need to be strong. You don't have to follow the crowd. You don't have to follow the crowd, because following the crowd is not going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you in the same trouble that they're in, because all your friends are broke anyhow. Because if they had something, they would have been saving their money and investing it and buying properties. We need to own a piece of this land. And that should be your goal. Not just to own a dress for $500. Not just to own a pair of shoes for $200 or $300. Not just to own a mink coat. Well, it's not that cold here, so you don't need one. But I'm saying that you don't need those things. You need to plan for your future and set some goals for your life. You get what I'm saying? And let me tell you something. The reason why you are broke is because you cannot sow. You see, if you don't have money, you cannot sow. And if you don't have money, you cannot get. Because the word says, give and it shall be given unto you. Press down, shake it together, and run it over. So the reason you don't have is because you don't have to sow. Because you have spent your money and now you come to church and you are looking to get free. You're looking to get from the man of God without investing. You're looking to get without giving. Therefore, the word says you are a robber. So set your goals and priorities right, because your life will not be, there'll not be any change in your life until you understand that you got to set goals for your life. Okay, so that's the first thing. After goal setting, the next thing you need to be able to look at, you got to make decisions. A lot of you don't like to make decisions, and that's why you are where you are. Because if you don't make a decision, one will be made for you anyhow. Therefore, you have to learn to change your thinking on decision making. I must make a decision. I am not going to spend my money like I used to before. I must make a decision. I am not going to go where I used to go before. So you got to learn to change your thinking on decision making. All right? And then also you have to learn, the third thing you have to learn to do is to change your decision on problem solving. A lot of you don't like to solve problems. But let me tell you something, if you don't solve them, they're not going to go away. By sweeping them under the carpet, they're not going to go away. This is the end.